I think that this week will be busy because there are still a lot of talks about taxes in the trade war. If things start to improve in the trade war and good deals are made, I think that this is the week that the next big wave to the upside will begin. I have a lot more information to go over, some of which is about how a supply shock is going to hit the space in a big way. The market is finally turning green, which is a nice change, but it's still too early to call it. Hey everyone, around the end of this movie, you can subscribe if you're new to the channel. Yes, the market as a whole has been doing fairly well lately. In fact, cryptocurrency has had a good week lately, which is nice to see after such a difficult month. The previous month, for example, saw us drop below $2 at the beginning of the month and go from about $160 to over $2. Since then, we've reached about 222 in the middle of April. But right now, we're at about $212, and I'm recording this a little earlier in the day. In addition, I've been looking at trading volume, and trading around XRP is up about 68% overall, and the number of trades is increasing, which is great to see too. The total amount of trades on Bitcoin is up about 3.5%, and the total amount of trades on Ethereum is up about 86%, which is a nice gain. In terms of some of those advances over 7 days, a 24-hour period looks like. However, aside from that, let's talk about XRP a little more. I've been focusing on the fiat leak, so I'm just curious to see how much XRP is being traded and what information can be gleaned from it. You should also be aware that XRP has been heavily purchased, and we know that the number of wallets and addresses holding XRP has increased significantly. Thank you very much. If we look at the trading volume of many cryptocurrencies over the last 30 days, we can see that XRP alone has seen over 76, or nearly 77 billion, 0 cents worth of trades. Ethereum and Bitcoin have also seen over 700 billion, or dollars, worth of trades over the last 30 days. Now we have 6.2 million XRP addresses, which is the most ever. Each of these addresses has at least one XRP chart. Some people trade with fixed coins, but if you really think about it, you should know how much Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and other major cryptocurrencies are traded. I just look at Tether's $3.6 trillion worth of trades, which indicates that there has been a lot of push to buy and sell in this area. That's why I bring up trading volume though, because a lot of people are asking themselves, are stores just avoiding crypto at this point? Is there really still someone here? The answer is that there are still a lot of people trading in this room. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is great to see. And yes, XRP is a big part of the trade volume, and there's still a lot going on with it. When it comes to Bitcoin, I've been concentrating on it for the past month. We're now back to those important levels from the end of March that we did reject, which started this slide down to about $75,000, which is what I'm really paying attention to on the chart break over these highs. We would need to get almost $90,000. I think that after the next goal should be $95,000 or $96,000 if we can reach that after more than $100,000 0 cents. As I already said, this could be the start. If this week goes well for taxes and the trade war talks, then this could be the week that everything changes in crypto, just like I've been sad about for the past few days also. What about the Bitcoin that is still on exchanges? I saw a post on X that turned out to be from Martini Guy on YouTube. We also have just in Bitcoin. This is the lowest amount of all exchange reserves that has ever been seen. There will be a supply shock. Okay, I'd like to talk about this when we think about it. Okay, to begin. There was the supply shock. Is Bitcoin going to have a supply shock? We'll just call it Bitcoin. I do believe that the supply measures are very important to pay attention to, since supply and demand are obviously linked, right? This will cause the value of Bitcoin to go up by a lot. How do we know that we'll go back to January 2024, right? If you look at this chart and zoom in on the period for January 24, you can see what our trading levels were at that time. Yes, there was a brief rise in Bitcoin's value to around $50,000 at the start of January. This is when we heard the news and talk about the ETF, we sold. That being said, if you look at the exchange funds after that sell-off, they kept going down. And during that time we kept going up to almost $73,000. Then during the whole sell-off, from around the beginning of March through the summer and into September, October, and November, check out the exchange funds, they fell down. That's what caused that huge push to $100,000 plus, been selling from over $100,000 down to around 7 million. I think that now is one of the best times to concentrate on Bitcoin's power, because we can tell that something big is going to happen with it because of that massive waterfall of exchange funds. I also think that the next big push to move on Bitcoin will be when Ethereum and other old coins start to take share from Bitcoin. I also think that this is where XRP starts to surprise a lot of people. What else will be behind this big rise in Bitcoin prices besides the exchange reserves? The Fed is making money, I've been asked. Why do you think this will occur, Nick? Are you aware that printing has already started in China? The EU and Japan. Marty Party wrote about this already, so here's an update on global liquidity. China's M2 money supply is expanding. Yes, the EU and Japan have started printing money. The question is, however, where Fed? Let's talk about the Fed to begin. Let's talk about M2 quantity with Bitcoin. We've talked about this. Okay, why do I keep talking about this? Because it already tells us that Bitcoin is about to go through its next big rise. We already have enough money saved up. The M2 quantity is already going up outside of the US, which is also responsible for real inflation. Since this is from Anthony Pompiano, we know that true inflation is 1.4%, which a lot lower than the Fed's target figure. Since real inflation is 1.42, the Fed should lower interest rates right now based on that. If the Fed lowers interest rates and M2 supply in the US starts to rise greatly, there will be a lot of money flooding these markets. I've been sad about this for a few weeks now because I think it's going to happen. Sure, you might say, but we can't just use what other countries like China, Japan, and the EU are doing to back up this case. But I have doubts about this. Why can't we? We could be in the same situation 2020 or even in 2016. If we think about what's going on here, this has happened many times before. When China, the EU, and Japan all start printing money, you can be sure that the Fed will do same. And the fact that conditions are ideal for the Fed to print money right now because of the inflation rates they are going to print. And there's no better time than now to fill the market with new money. Stocks are still going down, so the market needs more money. Now's a great time. Also, the chances of Fed lowering interest rates at the May FOMC meeting rose to about 55% at the beginning of April. Okay, it's right here, 55. 6% was